I think we're one of the best customer teams across the board. We have a great customer success team, but our engineers are customer obsessed. Our marketing team is customer obsessed. Sales team is customer obsessed. We'll get on a call and help the customer out on anything, and that's really key. That's very important, and that's a testament to like the zero churn we have across the board. We have customers that love us and will give great feedback, and that's one of the things I took away from Amazon. The other thing is kind of like this whole being the bias for action, the leadership principles they have, kind of like borrow what you need and bring those on, and even kind of like how do you build great scalable engineering? What are the processes you do? So many aspects of that we take. But at the same time, like let's say take for engineering is like how do you have a build scalable system, but also don't overbuild because you're at a startup phase. You don't want to over engineer and overbuild things yet. You don't know if this particular thing is going to work, so you got to do just the right enough, and it's a big balance.
Dear listeners, this is your host Siddharth Aluwalia, founder of 100x Entrepreneur Podcast, which I started with my wife Nancy. Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors, Prime Venture Partners. Prime is the first institutional investor in category-creating tech startups like MyGate, Dozy, Neo, and Planet Spark. Prime is now investing out of his fourth fund, which is more than $100 million. Today, I have with me Amit Somani, Managing Partner, Prime Ventures. Amit, how does Prime help the portfolio post-investment?
Thank you, Siddharth. So at Prime, all of the three partners, Sanjay, Shripati, and myself, have been in the trenches. We were operators and entrepreneurs before we were VCs. So we work with the founders in many different ways, largely depending on the company and their needs. So we can help them with product, with brainstorming about business strategy, about go-to-market, about partnerships, etc. All the way to really sort of helping get the company both to product market fit and perhaps even find escape velocity to grow beyond that. Last but not the least, we help the company prepare and get access to subsequent rounds of financing.
Thank you, Amit. So listeners, let's dive straight into this week's podcast. Today, I have with me Yadhu Gopalan, co-founder and CEO of Esper. Esper is a device DevOps platform that helps organizations remotely scale and manage their mission-critical devices. Esper offers an Android DevOps SaaS platform that provides a mature cloud infrastructure for customers across industries who are building app solutions for mission-critical devices. Yadhu has over 25 years of experience and 35 patents in embedded systems and security. His career includes roles as chief architect of the Windows CE, Windows Phone. At Amazon, Yadhu designed the backend solutions for the first Fire OS and AWS before he owned system engineering for Amazon Go. He is a pioneer of DevOps revolution and hundreds of millions of devices run code that he's personally built. Yadhu, welcome to the 100x Entrepreneur Podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Yadhu, would love to know your journey. If your professional journey, you can summarize before building Esper.
Sure. As you said, we spent 25 years in the industry. Like about 16 of those was with Microsoft, and 6 or 7 of those were with Amazon. So I really started off as a kind of an operating system developer, built kernels and file systems and really low level. And then along the way, kind of grew up as cloud came on and started building on cloud and larger scalable and systems that are which interacted with both devices and the cloud. Built many different devices of varying types, from phones to automotive to even gaming machines to music players. So a lot of experience there, and as we talk later on, like a lot of this experience for Esper comes out of my experiences throughout my lifetime of building the systems, with whether it's in like an Amazon Go device, thousands of devices in the store, etc. But really proud of kind of being able to do some really core engineering throughout my career.
And Yadu, if we step back, right, if you could tell us about where you grew up, and then how do you moved across countries for your study?
Yeah, so at a very young age, we moved to, I think I was 8 years old, moved to the US. When that's where I went to elementary school. My parents were both chemical engineering professors back then. So that's where I kind of I was born in Tamil Nadu, and then at a very young age we moved over there. Both went through it, elementary school and stuff, and ended up doing college in the same state, in the state of Maine. I think I was the only, back then I was the only Indian in the whole school as far as the elementary and etc. College a little bit more, so a lot better. But it was different times. Definitely in the corner of the United States, but had a lot of fun, and that's where I kind of got my start. I would spend a lot of time because it was right next to a college. I'd spend a lot of time with the college professors in the computer labs from very early on. I had a graduate student who used to teach me programming when I was in fifth grade, and so and he's an IIT professor now, and so that's kind of the background. Growing up with mainframes, and then eventually working on devices and operating systems.
And what problem did you observe in the industry that made you start Esper?
That's a really good question. So as I said, have spent a lot of time with devices, and really from early on, we used to do basically ship CDs to manufacturers, and the manufacturer would build devices, etc. 1 year, 2 year cycle. But us kind of cloud connected connectivity came where you could push updates. The ability finally came on that you can actually send an update to device. But then also like consumer devices, though, it's kind of changed. Everybody expects updates. Everybody expects being able to have rapid development and agile programming, DevOps, and all of these things that kind of fairly new. Like DevOps has really been in this thing for 10 years. And when I was in Amazon goes an example, is we had to build out this new systems and new devices for these amazing stores. And you know what? We spent, I think, the first 6 months or more just building infrastructure, and before we could actually do the value prop of the system. And that's what kind of like this thing started getting into my head. It's like, what if we could kind of democratize this? What if we could kind of make this really available so you don't have to spend very precious engineering resources trying to duplicate infrastructure over and over and again. So that's really kind of where the nugget of the idea or thought, this thing of like, that's something interesting to do.
And can you describe the current solution of Esper and which industries are using it the most?
Yeah, definitely. So what we're really trying to do is kind of make deployment to devices as easy as what it is now on the cloud. Being able to push code at will, and that's key. Push code at will, push, have a repeatable process, have great monitoring so you can trust it, and that it doesn't exist right now. It's taken for granted on the cloud. It's like I got a security patch that I have to push out. It's like within weeks. You're like working on it. As soon as you got a solution, you're pushing it out. Devices is like you're paranoid about what you need, what you're going to do to the devices. Do you really want to push these important security pushes, or even like customer facing features? You find it really hard to get that out there because you don't want to kind of brick the device, or you don't want to create this thing. You have no idea. You might have millions of devices out there, and you don't want to do a recall. So that is where we come in. It's kind of like at the basic. We do a lot of other things, but the basic is create the trust that you can have to be able to push code, content, configuration to your devices at will.
And which are these kind of devices that you are talking about? Where are they installed?
So the main focus of ours is when we talk about devices, is these dedicated devices that are mission critical, devices that are used for a single purpose, whether they're in like a restaurant point of sale, self-service kiosk, healthcare, telemedicine, like the device that you're interacting with as a patient, hospital monitoring devices, the digital signage that you see in airports, even your consumer devices that you like inside your home, like fitness, any connected device. It could be your weather monitoring device, delivery, even logistics. So there's a lot of different use cases and verticals that we address. Anywhere you're looking at a device that's not being used by a like for multiple use cases like a phone or a tablet, and just needs to work day in and day out, and where the software developer wants to be able to control, and it's really a single software that's going on there. We need to be able to push software updates. I would give an example of one of these devices is your Tesla car. You would never have thought of a car being updated, and that's a single purpose device. And they push updates even to add features to the car. Self-driving updates. Who would have thought a decade ago that you would do that and you would create value and additional value for cars? And that's the state, like I think we want to enable for everything, every device out there. And that's core to our principle.
And can you take an example of the Fortune 10 industries? How are they using Esper right now?
So some of them are like your top name, like restaurant chain. If you look at a restaurant these days, like 15, 16 devices per store at the minimum, from kitchen display, what's in the kitchen back room, to point of sale, to what ordering, to tabletop, to self-service kiosk. They want, and they're all cloud connected now. There's no back room server that this thing. They're connected to a service in the cloud. And they want to keep the feature, like basically the coherent feature set between the cloud and the device. So if they make a cloud update, they may want to make a device update. They want to continue to improve on the usability of all the software. They want a single pane of glass to be able to monitor these heterogeneous computes inside the restaurant. And that's one example. And this is a restaurant chain that you would have run into anywhere in the United States or even in the world. And so they've seen the value of Esper. Another example is in a retail store that we have. It's a project that I can't talk about too much, but you're talking about 2,000 devices per store, and it's an amazing use case. And there are thousands of these stores. And can you imagine having to manage all of these independent devices that are everywhere and that are distributed around the world? And that's where we really excel, is being able to scale. But we also allow, like, even if you have 500 devices, it's really important to be able to push updates and show your value proposition to your customers, and so that you can have the opportunity to scale in the future.
And how did the founding team for Esper, you and Mr. Shiv Sundar, come together?
So, good question. As I said, I worked for Microsoft, and during Microsoft years, when I was in Windows Phone, Shiv Sundar was kind of on the business development part of the. As I was in the development area, he owned kind of the Nokia relationship, and while we were in Windows Phone, so I got to know him really well because Nokia was our biggest customer at that phase of Microsoft Phone, and had a really great relationship. And then eventually he left for Sunnyvale area, the Bay Area, and worked for companies like Samsung and Cyanogen. But when I started thinking about doing a startup, I've been thinking about it the last, like, 2018 is when we started Esper, and it was like for a couple of years I was mulling at the idea of doing Esper. And one of the things I really wanted to do was have join up with someone that wasn't like me. So everyone else I was talking to was a bunch of developers and engineers and stuff like that. So I got to have someone that's kind of giving me the complementary skill set. So around the same time, I think it was that she was also trying to do a startup, and he called me one day, "Hey, what do you want to do a startup?" And like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like really good. I know you, I know kind of how you work. It'd be perfect if we got together and did the startup." And that's kind of like this story. And then eventually we pitched the idea, got seed funding, and around 2018, and that's kind of how we got started.
And if you can share the current scale of Esper and how it has evolved since 2018.
Sure, yeah. So as I said, 2018 we got started. Infrastructure is kind of, you got to build it, and you got to build enough of it before a customer is going to put some devices out that's in production on your platform. So we spent about a year and a half building the system, and then eventually started to get some early trials and pilots out there in 2000 by the end of 2019, and enough traction that we got to a point where Madrona Ventures invested in January of 2020. And I don't think we actually at that point in time, like other than pilots, we hadn't like we're not talking about real lots of revenue. And they did our Series A, and 2020 was an amazing year. Is like all of a sudden we turned on revenue, and we had we had by the end of the year we had like about 80 customers that were paying us, and lots of that of 80 logos, and we had about 1,000 like customers that are kind of doing a free tier and kind of getting up to scale, and that's what's really exciting about that. And so, kind of really, we're able to demonstrate product market fit by that end of that year. And since then, in 2021, despite kind of COVID and everything that we had, we saw 4x growth in revenue from 2020. We ended the number of customers logos around 250, 3,000 or more customers using our platform, um, 18x the number of devices. So really great growth. Yes, like we were in hospitality, like we're in every lots of verticals. So we were in hospitality as hospitality kind of hit a roadblock during COVID, but lots of other verticals saw tremendous growth successfully, and we're continuing that on into 2022. And in 2021, also one of the good things is like we were able to secure a Series B funding with Scale Venture Partners, and about 3 months later, we actually had another Series C. So we actually raised about $90 million during that year, giving us a good amount of capital to be able to kind of build this out, and grow our teams in India and US.
And approximately how many devices today would be on Esper?
Greater than 200,000 devices that are like on continuous use by our customers. There's a lot more devices that are out there, but we like what I call core mission critical use. About greater than 200,000 devices out there. The amazing thing is right now we're growing at more than 1,500 devices per day, and we'll get there to about we're predicting about 50,000 devices within in the next couple of months. And so the growth rate trajectory of doing devices is on an exponential curve.
And so by this current year, and you would have crossed like a million mission critical devices easily.
That's the hope, and that's the trajectory that we're looking at, and especially with a lot more bigger customers being onboarded right now as we speak.
And how did you manage to get some of the best people in the industry to join Esper?
I think it's the opportunity. We have a really good value proposition as from the opportunity. We were really uh, kind of we really wanted to have from day one have a great culture. It's not just about the people. We've built culture from day one and the type of people we want. And I think when all these top-notch people, as they look at us and they look at the founders, they look at the team that we built and the culture we built and the value proposition of the product that we're building. All of that kind of like comes together to have a like something that people desire to be able to join and build and kind of join us in this growth. And we have a ton of builders in all aspects, not just engineering, and that's what's exciting to me.
And you have built a team in India, you have built a team in US, and you spend half of your time across India and US. What have been the challenges of building a team across geographies?
It's obviously the time zone is a thing, but that's something that we continuously strive to improve. There are also different ways. There are great talent everywhere, but I'm really impressed with the talent that we have in India, and that's why when we started off the company, I flew on like I think day two after we got funded. I flew over to India to start building the team because I knew there's like this amazing talent in India, and especially even this amazing talent in this local area with Bangalore. We might grow in different parts of India, but this is a great place to start. The Challenges there are there. I mean, like how you recruit, what type of culture and what type of this thing that you're looking for. Diversity is different. We have like really great diversity in India. We have really great diversity in US, but it means different things. There's obviously the interview process and even how people work. I mean, I come into the office and I see like it's so vibrant and active, and people are working together and talking together and create little pods. And I just love coming in, and it gives me so much energy to be in the office here in Bangalore. And that's what you got to take advantage of. That you got to take advantage of, regardless of where the talent is and where the capabilities are. And so that's really important to me. And so yes, there's challenges being having a global scale, but I think the benefits completely outshine what any of the challenges we have.
And how big is today the team at Esper?
We have about 226 people worldwide. I think about 120 of that in India, the rest in the United States. And we're going to. I'm looking to double the team or more in India in the next year. I would expect we're about 320 people worldwide.
And if you can share your journey of building distribution and partnerships, because if we see in the ecosystem, most entrepreneurs are good at product, very few are good at sales, and very rare is the breed that can execute distribution and partnerships at scale. You are one of them, and your team is one of them. So how did you go about building that?
I think that comes from. I think one of the things in like distribution process is like that comes with like experience. Having done that, having seen partnerships in the past, that's one of those places where I think like where Shiv and I like after working multiple years at these larger companies, partnered with huge billion-dollar companies. When we were in Microsoft or Amazon or Samsung, gives us that kind of edge or knowledge that this is how this works. When I was in Microsoft, like Intel, Qualcomm, and all these people are the regular. I'm the operating system, so I'd be there in San Diego with Qualcomm every other week. Shiv worked with Samsung, and he had a ton of experience. So I think that's one of the benefits that we do have, like we're the wise old men of startup. So and that I think that's what that's a place where we can take advantage of. And in our business, partnership is really key because we do software, but there's hardware that we're using. So being able to talk to hardware manufacturers and partners is really important aspect of our business.
And you served, as you said, like large part of your life between Microsoft and Amazon. What are your learnings from them, and what are you applying in building, the culture, the team, and even the product and distribution side at Esper?
Definitely. So I worked at these two behemoths, Microsoft and Amazon. But interestingly enough, almost all the projects that I worked on were always a zero to end projects. So it was a small team and very much of a startup type environment. I went any project that I joined is like, okay, we're forming this team to do this, and I joined it. And so I was usually like the founding member of all of these small teams. So got to see like what it is to build out teams from the inside of these bigger corporations with a lot of. I mean, you don't in that case you don't worry about funding. You've got a much bigger check that you can do this. So you've got some safety nets that you don't have in a startup. But that is so you could that's one experience. But you also get the experience of like I think Microsoft was really great at like from operating systems and building out like lots of different projects from you saw how Word or Office would work, and you saw how the culture at the Windows, and you got a little bit of sampling of all these different cultures. And when I moved to Amazon, very similar. Fire OS, Amazon Go were very kind of these small things that kind of came out of Amazon. But the other thing that I got out of like experience is like Amazon is one place where I think they build great engineering managers. So you get a sample of like how it is to build and manage huge complex systems. And I like I take a lot of that with me with a little bit of sprinkling of salt, so because we want the startup vibe. So we don't want over process, but it's always in my head. This is probably the best practices, etc., on how we use that from either Microsoft and Amazon. But we got to be pragmatic. You got to kind of overlay that with what you need in a startup to take all these things and kind of make a lighter weight version of all these things, and then grow those infrastructure that you have to build a company little by little.
And can you share a couple of examples uh, of the best practices that you adopted from Amazon?
I think let's talk about I think one thing that Amazon did really well and is customer obsession. They're amazing at customer obsession, and I took that the day zero, day when I go in, they talk about customer obsession. They give me 20 examples of how they were customer obsessed. That's my the orientation. Is they talk about a story where they're in a cruise, somebody's in a cruise ship, they damaged their Kindle, so the person ships them another Kindle while they're still on vacation. So they kind of drill that into the customer. So that was really key, and that's something that we've taken. I think we're one of the best customer teams across the board. We have a great customer success team, but our engineers are customer obsessed. Our marketing team is customer obsessed. Sales team is customer obsessed. We'll get on a call and help the customer out on anything, and that's really key. That's really important, and that's a testament to the zero churn we have across the board. We have customers that love us and will give great feedback, and that's one of the things I took away from Amazon. The other thing is kind of this whole being the bias for action, the leadership principles they have. Kind of borrow what you need and bring those on, and even kind of how do you build great scalable engineering? What are the processes you do? So many aspects of that we take. But on the same time, let's say take for engineering is how do you have build scalable system, but also don't overbuild, because you're at a startup phase. You don't want to over engineer and overbuild things yet. You don't know if this particular thing is going to work, so you got to do just the right enough, and it's a big balance.
And can you go in more detail about the culture of Esper?
So I think the main thing that of all the leadership principles, we distill down our leadership principles into three things that we kind of look at. That's trust, bias for action, and customer obsession. And real super, a lot of other companies we have. But one of the things that all these things come down to is accountability. We've hired an amazing set of people who are very accountable. And the thing that I would talk about with them is all of them are great at their art, and that's what's important to me. Is that when I define art, it can be marketing, it could be sales, it could be customer success, it could be engineering. They are passionate about their art. It's not just I got to do my job and come in. They're passionate about their art, and that means that they're passionate about self improvement. They're passionate about trying to become better, and our hope is after Esper, they have an amazing career in their art, and they've learned a lot. So that's really important about it, and it's that. The key thing is they're looking to improve themselves. They're trying to improve and becoming better continuously in what they're doing, and that runs across all of Esper, and that's what I'm really proud of.
And how are you looking to grow your team in India?
Um, Not fast enough. That's all I can say. It's we're absolutely looking to hire across all disciplines, putting a lot of emphasis on engineering. We're doing a ton of college hire. We're looking at veterans across industry, and obviously it's in Bangalore area and from across India, trying to recruit people across marketing, in sales and customer success. Really, really important that we grow here. Be able to take advantage of the talent that's available in Bangalore. Yeah, and then the other thing is we're really in the office. All of our people are in the office. We kind of have a hybrid this thing, but we ended up investing in a really great office. It's an amazing place to come in, and that when we wanted to have a good experience and good atmosphere for the people that are coming in. I love being in this office. You just be all the decorations behind the screen are real. It's not a background image, and so and we want it to be fun. We want it to be a great place for them to kind of do their art.
Yadu, if you have to reflect back and take out some 3 to 5 key learnings which other entrepreneurs can learn from your own journey, what would they be?
One of them is to never stop learning. I mean, this is a. I'm an engineer, so my one of my things about in a CEO is just learning, absorbing, being a sponge. Whether it's picking up marketing, picking up sales, picking up all these things. I'm not going to be a salesperson, but I got to understand it. I'm not going to be the marketing person. I got to understand. So never stop learning. I mean, every day is a learning opportunity for me. And then the second one is never like try things. I think it's balance between being conservative and trying to be adventurous. And the way I look at it is like, is it a one-way door, two-way door? If it's a two-way door, go for it and know how to have mechanisms to know whether you're successful. And that's really important. We've tried so many things that have not worked, but we've also tried many things that work. And so that's super important. And then the other one is kind of like have fun, enjoy it. It's an opportunity. You're building something amazing. So it is going to be a lot of work, but enjoy it. Surround yourself with great people so that you can have fun. And I think that's the key thing. Hiring people, hiring talent is what's really all about. And if you have the right people around you, you can actually build amazing things.
And Yadu, since you over-indexed on the learning, capabilities that you have as a CEO, would love to learn, right? What are the learning mechanisms you adopt? You read a lot, and what do you read in that case, or what are the sources that you learn from?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts. So they're really great. I read a lot. I also do a lot. So I read in all forms. So I have physical books. I have Kindle ebooks, and I do a lot of Audible. So that I use that opportunity. I even go to bed with an Audible book in my head sometimes. So the and then talking to other people. And I think that's why I'm talking to my team. I spend a lot of time spending time with my marketing team or my sales team, and then as well as other founders, CEOs. I make that point. I take a lot of listening and get advice from many people who have done it before. And it's important, even people who are in marketing from other organizations, etc. And the key thing there is we have to be able to kind of build on top of that. One of the, and I know learning is so important. Is like one of the first things I did as we were expanding was make like LinkedIn Learning free for everyone in the company, and so it's important. And I'm looking always to figure out how we can continue to encourage the team to learn more. We're growing, so probably have first time managers that they've never managed before. How do I get manager training and all of these things? So I want to equip them with as many tools as possible in order to succeed.
Thank you so much, Yadu. It's been wonderful to learn from your journey, from what you have built at Esper, and it amazes me in a short span of time the scale that you have achieved.
Thanks. It was great talking to you about all this. I love talking about a lot of these subjects. And thanks for having me on board and allowing me to talk about Esper and the people we have behind Esper.